Hey boardies, welcome to AmassGames. My name is Simon. This is the game called Tea Garden. This is a setup, play and review video. This is a game by Albi, designed by Tomas, Holek. It's for 2 to 4 players, ages 12 plus, and takes 90 minutes to play. Aim of the game is to get the most points by impressing the emperor in China, and ultimately you'll be getting the promise of a fertile lands in the coveted province of Yuan. So in this particular game, everybody is going to take a player board. They look something like this. They all have different characters, but they're all identical in every other way, apart from different colours, and you can choose what colour you want to play as. In the last game, I played as green yesterday. So on your turn, well, you're going to say who last drank some tea. I've literally just had another tea. Then you can decide who goes first. There's no advantage in going second, third or fourth. You don't get any extra bonuses, anything like this. But you'll place, each of your people will place a character on here. So one of your little pawns down here. You're also going to have some spares off to the side. And in the box, I happen to have sleeved this up. So check out my sleeving playlist. You're going to take out every other bit you need as well. So you're going to place a starting marker here. You're going to take the starting player token, which will move each round. And there's some emperor tokens, etc., which may or may not get used in the game, but they generally do, so do keep some out as a supply as well. So in this game, you are going to be playing with cards. They have various options you can play with those cards. And in every game I played, the teacher's been fairly straightforward. They've kind of understood it. But let's briefly talk to you about the rest of the board. So we're going to be starting off here in this province. This is a province where everyone's going to be out initially to, and what it's going to be doing is generating some tea at kind of quality 2, and the quality is going to improve as the game goes on, or you want it to improve. Otherwise you're going to struggle to buy better cards. This also has deck building in it as well, and a kind of action point system. So you're going to start off down here. There's a few other things to lay out as well. So whilst I'm doing this, make sure you like, subscribe and hit the notification bell. Over here, you're going to place out a ship, and it's going to start off in this location. I'll place it on the side just so it's easier to see. So everybody else is going to be doing this as well, and you're going to be placing out these pot tokens depending on the number of players over here. So I'm just showing you there's a visible space, but there's some here, 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 and here. You'll also be placing out these kind of bonus tokens. So if and when you choose to get out more pagodas to these other locations, which must be adjacent to where one of your existing pagodas are, then you can get yourself a bonus, in which case you grab 3 tea leaves and you're going to place it on a level 1 spot. So that's how that works. And everybody's also going to be taking 2 green tea leaves. You can ferment them to make them brown, and they're going to go on the 2 space on your board too. Now, if any have any questions, always do let me know via the comments are best on YouTube. This does get shared, please do share, but in YouTube you can find a great common source. So on your turn, what can you do? Well, let's drop your 4 cards and see what we get. So let's give them a quick shuffle. 1, 2, 3, 4. I've got 4 cards. You have an action cost. So if I want to bring out another pagoda next to where I am, it's going to cost me 3 initially. So I have got currently value 5, so I could do 3, 4, 5 and spend that and bring out level 5, which makes no sense. I always go for the cheapest first, because you are going to have, in this game, it's 5 rounds. However, you are going to be playing out cards, but you do not draw more cards at the end of your turn, unless some ability gives you that option, and therefore you probably don't want to spend all your cards. So let's see what else I could do. I look through my cards, and I can say, okay, well, I could spend a 3. So let's say I spend a 3, I could spend a 3 pot. So you're going to use the top value card. So I have a 2 and a 1. It goes to the bottom of my board, just about out of shot. Let's leave it up here for the time being. And therefore you can see, I've now got 3 cost. I can bring out my pagoda somewhere adjacent to where I am. So it could be down here, it could be here, it could be over here. And those are my options, or in fact up here as well. So let's say I went here. This means a new pagoda comes out. I'm now going to get myself 3 tea leaves on level 1. Now, something else I could do is I could have brought it out here, which draws up another card, give me more cards to play with, which we can keep to next round, which I'll get on to. I could do it down here and do the same as this one, over here, and these are all random. So initially, these all place face down, and then you just bring them face up. And again, 3 are not played with. So let's just say I stick with this. I give myself 3 more tea leaves, and they're going to go on my level 1 kind of little basket. So speaking about level 1, in terms of setting up this game, the other things to do is you're going to bring out the university track over here. This is the Emperor Scroll track. And down the bottom here, we've got various cards that we can buy. So these all have numerals on them. So in this case, depending on the number of players, you might have more or less. There are 9 for each of the 5 levels of cards. And in a 4-player game, you're playing with 6 of these cards. But with fewer players, you're playing with fewer cards, like 4 in a 2-player game. And then you're moving through, the next card's going to be revealed, could well be a 1, it could be some 2s, etc. So it keeps moving down the deck. You're going to get higher and higher value cards. They're going to be more and more expensive. Then they cost you level 6 teas to come out, etc. So now I've taken that first turn, it's somebody else's turn. I've now taken a main action. I've built a tea garden. So I've paid my cost of 3 and those cards are now spent. However, what I could do is spend those other 2 to not build it here, but build it further away. So you can build it 1 further away at a cost of 2 action points. So I could have built this over here instead to get this instead. And some reasons you might want to do this is because if you're the first to reach these sections, then you can place in here to get yourself 4 points straight off the bat, as opposed to going down here for 2, etc. That's something you can do. If you're seeing these purple values, these are end game scores. So let's say it's someone else's turn and now it's back to my turn. Well, remember, I've only got 2 cards in hand. So what can I do now? Well, can you see down the bottom here, there are some very valuable cards. Firstly, they're worth 4 points. They give you better action points, and any cards you acquire go into your hand. So in this case, I have a wild. It's a grey teapot, which means it's a wild. So any colour I have, which is going to be either blue, red or green, can be spent to do it. So in this case, let's say I spend a red because I might want the blue later. So this comes down, my second turn, I can buy this card. Why can I buy it? I have an action point cost of 1. The action point cost is 1, or 1 here. It gives me a green teapot, it'll give me 4 points, they'll both give me 4, and it's going to give me, in this case, spending a wild, spending 3 of my green tea leaves. So I spend 1, 2, 3, they go out the game, and therefore this comes back, or it goes back into general supply. I take this card into my hand, so now I've got more cards. Again, I would have had to spend the card that I used to do so. These will then move along, and you bring out a new card. So knowing if we were playing this as a 4, we're now onto the level 2 decks. So now we're going to see some more interesting stuff. So now we've got, it's worth 5 points. It's needing level 3 tea now, and you need 2 of the same colour, and in this case they must be red. But you do get more things from your card as well, so that could be quite handy for you. So that's my second turn done. Now I've been telling you about these action things you can do. So one thing you can do is build a pagoda. We tried that out. We've bought an action card. We've tried that out too. Another thing you can be doing is you could choose to go for a caravan. You don't have to do more than one thing in a certain round. You could do 5 turns buying this. Sorry, not 5 turns. 3 and potentially an extra one, which I'll come back onto. Or you could do loads of these caravanning. You could do loads of river stuff. I'll come on to how that works in a second. So let's say I want to get one of these cards on a future turn. I must spend leaves, so either spend 1 leaf, I've only got 2, so I can't do this one. Well, I can't do the bottom one if I didn't do this one. This one allows me to get a wild token. So these wild tokens are off to the side. There's a finite amount of them. And if you take one, it just means you can spend it if you need to, say, get 2 red teapots. You could, if you had one of these in your hand, you can discard it to then maybe fulfill this requirement. Now, if any time you do have enough tea, you can always spend 3 green tea or 2 fermented tea to get yourself a wild as well, or 3 to get a ×2 token. A ×2 I'll come back onto, that lets you take a secondary action another time. So what this does, if you happen to have 3 green tea, then you can actually gain another one of those wild tokens. So instead of getting 1, you can get 1. Plus, you can lose a card permanently from your deck of cards. Now, that can come from your hand, your discard, or your draw pile. If it's coming from your draw pile, you must shuffle your hand afterwards, and then you must do one of these 2 options. So either your card is value 1, because you play 1 card to trigger this, you always play a card to trigger this action, or bring out pagodas, or getting new cards. So in this case, you can lose a card. But anyway, over here, you can get yourself 2 points. Or if it's value 2 or more, you can get 3 points and you get an Emperor token, which just say we leave it here for the time being. And I'll come back on to what that does in a second. But instead of this, you could be getting out some black discs, which I'll explain how that works in a second as well. Or you could choose to get a black disc and lose a card, obviously permanently destroying it, again getting points, getting Emperor tokens. So that's another thing that's a third thing you can do. The fourth thing you do is ferment. So if you happen to have, I don't know, a spare card, you might want to spend this, and all it does is just ferments your green tea. So it does this, and I'll show you why that's important as well in a second. Everything you do is good. The final thing is you can do extra tea harvest. So let's say I've got a value 2, I've got 2 pagodas out, it lets me produce tea. So I produce 1 tea leaf, that's a green tea leaf always, on a level 3 basket, and 1 on a level 2. So 1 goes here, 1 goes here. More tea leaves can be good, as you can see. That's something you can do. So it's a maximum of 1, but if I only had a value 1 action point card, then I could just bring out 1 here, because 3 is better than 2, because cards get more expensive and you need to have better tea to do so. So that covers off the 5 main actions. There are secondary actions. So when I played out this card before with a teapot, this allows me to take a pot of one of these things. It must be in the same zone where my coloured pagoda's in. So in this one here, it gives me this one, or gives me this pot over here. So what this one does, when I happen to connect it up to something else, and I've got one of those black discs, which we can put out in a second. Then once you've connected them up, what it allows you to do is brown 2 of your leaves. This one gives you a leaf on level 2. And the reason why you might want to collect these is at the end of the game, as long as they can match and they can't be turned upside down, you're going to get points depending on how many you have. And the way that's going to work is I'm going to show you the backside of this card. There's scoring. So one of them is going to give you 1 point, up to 7, which gives you 22 points. I'll talk about endgame scoring again in a second. Fair amount to explain this game, but when it gets started, it's really smooth. So we've talked about the 5 main actions. We've talked about one of the secondary actions on your cards, which is playing one of these pot cards. However, there's other cards that you could be playing with, which I haven't drawn into yet. Scrolls. So you might have seen we've got these things. Anytime on your turn, you can do a scroll thing. So if that was your top value card, when you played out on your turn, you can take this action. So I can move into one of these 2 quadrants, either getting myself 3 level 2 tea or browning 2 leaves or up to 2 leaves. On a future turn, I play a scroll again, it moves around to here, and now we're starting to get points at the end of the game. And this lets me draw a new card or brown 2, a leaf on level 3, gets me an emperor point token, emperor token, etc. etc. You can get a +1 value to make something stronger, such as more fermentation, buying better cards, etc. And once you go round here, you're bringing out one of your guys, and you'll get 10 points at the end of the game. And you're going to keep on able to get more and more 10 points. And wherever this ends up, you're going to get 2 points. So 2 plus 10 is 12, as an example. So that's that. Now, you can also go up this track, and that is because sometimes you're able to do so as a free action. I'll come back onto that in 1 second because there's a final secondary action you can do. We talk about scrolls, we've seen the pots. Lastly, we've got the river. You can move along here if your top card to play that turn happens to have that card on it. As the game goes on, there'll be more and more things on those top cards. So you move along the river, you can get yourself 2 green leaves. Move further along, you can get yourself an emperor token and a wild. And you keep moving along and you're starting to get some points. And I've seen people hit 25 points. That's the first hit there, the next person gets 20, etc. So you can win doing the boat strategy. That's a great sign of a game when you can say the strategy for something. So we also have free actions. So we've been picking up these, let's say, as we've been going along. If you happen to have 2 of them and you have 1 level green leaf or higher, you can always spend higher at any time. You can destroy a card from anywhere you like, from your deck, etc., deck, hand, or discard pile, and you get one of these Emperor cards. These are going to go into your hand, just like these. Action value 2, 3, 3, etc. 12 points at the end of the game. You get to 4 brown leaves when you play out the card on a future turn, and you get to draw 2 and discard 2. So you might have a better hand that way. This one's browning 2, as you can see over here as well. It lets you do a scroll action, so it lets you do this, and lets you take one of these pots from the respective zone where your pagodas are, and you can draw and discard. 4 points for every one of these things you've got at the end of the game. In this case, 2 points for every green leaf tea. Maxed out here at 4 of those, so 16 points, and over here, maxed out at 18 points. There's loads of these that come out. As the game goes on, you're going to find you're going to be drawing into more of them. Now, I am going to be showing you a promo video separately to all this for this game as well, which I haven't yet tried out. So that's something else you can do. Check my promo playlist too. So that pretty much covers off what you're doing. So you're taking 3 turns, and that will end the round, and 2 rounds can last as little as 16 minutes. That's how quick the game can be. Now, if you've got 2 green leaves and a brown leaf, so I haven't got the most enough on this first round, and normally it's the second round it's going to start kicking in, you can spend that to take a 4th action, as long as you still have cards. So if you've got cards, you take a 4th action, and you can do again whatever you like, depending on the value of the card. So if you've got 6, then you can chuck out your 6th pagoda or whatever it might be over to the side of this map. And then we're going to go onto the maintenance phase. So this is going to move into round 2. You're then going to move the starting player token to the next player to your left. You're then going to manage the card display. So this bottom card gets lost. These move across, and we're going to bring out more cards. So we're going to bring a new card out here, and then you're going to get rid of any cards you've played in front of you to your discard pile. Then you're going to ripen your tea leaves. So you have tea leaves in front of you, and these are all going to ripen. So in this case, they are green, so they're going to wilt and they're going to get weaker. However, if one was weaker and one was stronger, whatever, that improves and that goes down. So yes, anything that you have that's brown will always move up by 1. So they're getting better in quality. And then what we're going to do is you're then going to harvest. So you're going to get 2 tea leaves of that value. So I'm getting 2 green level 3 leaves. So I'm going to take 2 from the supply and place them onto my level 3 board. 1, 2, and then I'll place 2 as well over here. So I'll place 1 here and I grab another one and place that on level 2. That kind of concludes the maintenance phase, apart from lastly, you draw 4 cards. So if you have any cards left over, you can keep them. Plus, you're going to draw into your deck or draw pile or discard pile, shuffle as needed to get extra cards. And that shows you have the starting cards. So that's how the game's going to go. Obviously, in round 2, you've now got more stuff. You're going to have more action points. You can choose to buy better high-value stuff as well. You're starting to see where you have teapots and where you can make a difference. As you can see, it can be quite a tricky game to explain. And in terms of the size of the board, it's quite interesting to make sure you've got everything in shot. Everybody has loved this game. It's a great game. It's an 8 out of 10. It's very enjoyable. I did have one game where I think there's a first player advantage and also a feeling that I had loads of, I think it was red teapots, and I really struggled to deal with it in terms of not having the respective stuff, not having a great turn. I thought I'll risk it and not take it my first turn because I had an option to take a card. Then they took that card I wanted, so I really struggled. So that was a problem. Love the pieces. Yes, Albi's a great company. That's a Czech company. The designer's Czech as well. About to play another one of his games today. That's going to get opened as well. So like I said about liking, subscribing, and hit that notification bell. Lots of variety with these Emperor cards too. And these cards, depending on the number of players, there's going to be 7 of these light blue cards in a 2-player game, 10 in a 3, 13 in a 4-player game. You're going to have these darker cards after that, in which case you're spinning some fermentation stuff, and then you can get better stuff too. So you're going to need these black discs as and when you join these things up, because once you've taken the token off, and this all was all ready to set up, let me just grab out those black tokens. Then what can happen is any time on your turn, you can remove a black token and trigger one of those 2 benefits. Either get 3 points, or you get another Emperor token. Again, more Emperor tokens bumps up this track, and then you can start fermenting once, removing a card, getting all these bonuses until the very top gets yourself 10 points as well. So, like I said, very enjoyable, swift turns, doesn't seem to take much longer with more players, although realistically that could be the case. Some player interaction, trying to grab these things first, and of course this endgame part. And yes, this moves quickly. In the final round, you're not going to have many of these cards left. Loads of bonuses to be picked up from the Emperor track. Highly recommend checking out this game if you haven't done so already. And at the time of recording, I know I'd apparently logged and had the most logged plays for this game compared to anybody else. So yes, I've definitely been playing it a lot. We've played it back to back. So that's been how impressive this game has been. So do make sure you check this one out and let me know. Obviously, we talked about it on the podcast as well. Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, etc. as well via the description, YouTube too. And look forward to speaking to you again on that next video. That has been Tea Garden. Like I said, a lovely insert. It worked pretty well, but the reason why I haven't done a full setup is once these are in here, it's a bit tricky to get them all out. The same with these guys, the same with these tokens and these pot tiles as well. It's very difficult to really try and get a whole bunch of them. You need to get them individually. As you can see, you're not playing with all the deck, so everything's different each game, so it's nice to vary it. I have made sure we've played through all the cards too, and like I said, the colours are quite neat and not tidy too. You'll find out your boards go on here as well. Tea Garden, thank you very much for watching. It's a great game, and hopefully you're going to find something of interest too. Like I said, there's a lot of questions you might have, and hopefully that was of interest. I have left the zoom level whereby this was partially out of shot, but it did allow you to see everything. But I think this was filming in 4K, so hopefully this helped. And by all means, do slow the video down if I was speaking too fast. For now, back to the table.